Hey everybody, welcome back to the Keep 7 Gaming YouTube channel, and today we're playing a version of Temur Reclamation that doesn't focus around Expansion Explosion, mainly because I only have one copy of Expansion Explosion, but really what we're doing is kind of Simic Flash mixed with Temur Reclamation. I know that, some of these cards in Simic Flash already see play in Temur Reclamation, but we're really leaning into the Simic Flash portion of it. I like the Simic Flash deck. I like the wRECked deck. I don't have all the pieces to make a wRECked deck, and Flash decks are fun, but I'm just not really... I don't like that in Flash decks you can't tap out on your turn and then have mana open, obviously, for the counter spells on your opponent's turn. Obviously, Wilderness Reclamation takes care of that problem for you. Wilderness Reclamation, which this deck is pretty much built around, is an enchantment that, at the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control, which essentially opens up all your lands for your opponent's turn, which means that you have an opening for things like your counterspells, your Sinister Sabotage, Mystical Dispute, Brazen Borrower, to bounce things if you need to, unsummons, negates. It just opens up a bunch of possibilities. And then you have Frilled Mystic, which is just essentially more counterspells. And then, if they don't have any significant plays, or if they're afraid of making a play on the end step, after they have chosen to not play anything, or if they've run out of things to play, you can play your Night Pack Ambusher at the beginning of their end step. So you have a 4/4 body on the field. The more of them you put down, the more you buff your wolves. And then, assuming you don't play any spells on your turn before attacking with Night Pack Ambusher, you can also create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, which becomes a 3/3 automatically by having a Night Pack Ambusher on the field. If your Night Pack Ambusher gets removed, it becomes a 2/2, but still it puts a body on the field, and if you continue to not play spells at the end of your turn, just holding on to counter spells, which you're probably going to do, you just create more 3/3 wolves. So yeah, I mean, Simic Flash in itself is probably one of the most annoying decks to play against, because it's just... You keep countering, you're essentially not allowing your opponent to play the game and then playing your own game. And then Wilderness Reclamation is just kind of a nail in the coffin for anybody who really wants to play. It's a very annoying deck. It's not very fun to play against at all. But I was playing earlier today. I probably had 3 hours of recorded games with different decks that I've been trying out that were performing well, when I wasn't recording. And then as soon as I start recording, they played terribly, and I think I have like 3 hours of footage of me just getting absolutely trounced. And then the games that I did win, people scooped on turn 2 or 3 after I removed something early, so it wasn't particularly great. So I figured I'd make a deck that I knew was pretty competitive, would win me some games, and would be extremely annoying to play against. Obviously, one thing that you're probably saying to yourself is Teferi shuts this down immediately, which it does. If a Teferi's on the field, it's probably an immediate scoop for us. So if we see a Teferi, if I'm recording, if we see a Teferi when I'm playing, I'll record the scoop probably and put it in. But why? I mean, I'm addressing it here. So, yeah, if Teferi's out there, I'm not playing that game because you can't. But other than that, the only one downside I saw to this was there's no real card draw. You could maybe include a card like Gadwick. It's a little expensive, Gadwick being, the three blue mana. 3 blue mana and X. You could draw X cards for a or not for a one of, but, for a one-time use. I mean, you could put Thassa in here, but at what point am I too scattered? I'm saying you put Thassa in the deck to blink Gadwick. You blink him back and forth, you can draw cards rather than it just being one ETB, where just the one time he enters the battlefield, you draw X cards. I just don't think that that's strong enough. I put 2 Hydroid Krasis in here, which could be your late game win cons. You play a big enough Krasis, and then potentially... you get all your lands untapped at the beginning of your end step. You play a very big Krasis, and then your lands reset with Wilderness Reclamation. Also, Hydroid Krasis allows you to draw half X cards. So if you're casting a 6/6 Krasis, you get 3 cards. Round down each time. So let's say it's 7. Let's say you make a 7/7 Krasis, you still only get 3. So it's not actually a lot of card draw, but that's kind of the main problem with this deck, is that there is a lack of card draw. You might be able to cut things like Sinister Sabotage and put in things that have some card draw effects, which might be worth experimenting. But I've been playing, if you play pretty slowly and you play pretty methodically, and you have some pretty deliberate decisions to make, you can remove the right things, and you can kind of get in there and get what you need done. One of the main things that I was originally just doing Simic. I was just in the blue-green originally. I didn't have any red, but one of the things I found is we have no real early removal. We just have counterspells, and you're not playing counterspells until, usually not even until after you have Wilderness Reclamation out. It's rare that you have 3 mana and you have 3 mana open that you're going to be using to counter something. You're probably early game, you're using 3 mana to ramp with Uro. So they're probably going to have a board presence pretty early in the game that you're going to need to address. So I have 3 Storm's Wrath. If you have to get something on the board, or if things kind of come out awkward and you do have like a Nightpack Ambusher out there or Frilled Mystic, you had to counter a spell and you didn't have any counter spells in hand, you only had Frilled Mystic, you can play your Frilled Mystic. And then I have things like Unsummon. I have 2 Unsummon in here that can kind of be your saving grace if you have to Storm's Wrath the board, and you can prevent killing one of your own creatures. So you can, if you had to play a Frilled Mystic, you have an Unsummon in hand and a Storm's Wrath, and they have a big board, you can Unsummon, get your Frilled Mystic back, Storm's Wrath the board, and then on end step, you still have all your lands untapped. Hopefully you have Wilderness Reclamation out there, and Frilled Mystic will be available as a counterspell. So there is some interplay and stuff like that around here, but really what you're trying to do is choke your opponent out, make sure that they don't have any important plays that they can make, get your Nightpack Ambusher down, or, well, get Wilderness Reclamation down is the first thing you want to do. You're ramping with Uro into Wilderness Reclamation, you get Wilderness Reclamation down, and then your world opens up. You have Nightpack Ambusher on their end step. If you want to get a board presence, you can Storm's Wrath the board right away after Wilderness Reclamation so that you can clear their board and you can kind of start new. You get a new, blank slate. And you keep your counter spells open so that they're late game, or their mid to late game, you can just keep countering their, any new threats they try to get on the board while putting, your own threats down, and then you can close the game out with a really big Hydroid Krasis or something like that. So as far as our mana base, I have 2 Castle Vantresses. These can be super, super helpful, especially, if you're in a top decking situation. If you have one of these on the board and you have your Wilderness Reclamation down, your land is untapped. So at the end of their end step, if you have no other plays or something, you have mana open, you can just simply scry for 4 mana. You can take a look at what your next 2 cards are going to be, and they can help you win. 1 Mystic Sanctuary, just because why not? You could get something like a Mystical Dispute or a Sinister Sabotage back from the graveyard. It's not the worst thing to include. And then really kind of your staples are the 4 Ketria Triomes. If you have them in the starting hand, obviously a great thing to get down early. 2 Fabled Passages, probably just to fetch the mountains in case you're in an awkward position with Storm's Wrath. Because everything else is, you'll probably get the mana you need for everything else. And then, basically just incorporating some mountains into some dual lands, and then 2 mountains just because we want some fetchables with Fabled Passage. So we have 2 mountains, 2 islands, 2 forests as our fetchables for the 2 Fabled Passage. You could throw a third in there, I guess, but overall, as far as a breakdown, we have 15 creatures, 11 instants, 3 sorceries, 4 enchantments, the only enchantments being Wilderness Reclamation, and 27 lands. You could up that to 28 and maybe cut something else. Maybe you cut a Hydroid Krasis, or maybe you cut Sinister Sabotage. This might be a little counterspell heavy, so, maybe I think the first thing I would cut is probably Sinister Sabotage. I think we have probably enough counterspells in, 8? With between Frilled Mystic and Mystical Dispute. So you can cut Sinister Sabotage and maybe include something with card draw, or you can cut Sinister Sabotage, include some card draw, maybe more on summons and something like that. But yeah, so really the splash of red is only for Storm's Wrath to clear up the board. There are other red cards that you could add in here. Obviously cutting Hydroid Krasis and going full Temur wreck and going for Expansion Explosion is probably best, but I only have 1 copy, and I don't think making a deck for 1 copy of 1 card is not probably going to be the best. But It could help you close out a game, though. I've had many games where I have my opponent down to not very much life, and then I kind of hit a stall because I'm running out of cards, and then they kind of run away with it. So it could potentially be something that you want to do. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into our matches. Okay. Our first opponent for the day is Brad Bard. Interesting name. Okay, so we have the Wilderness Wreck, and then we don't have a play until turn 4. So this is pretty ugly. If they're playing aggro, we're pretty much dead in the water, but we'll stay true to our name and keep 7. Okay, so that's Gruul colors, which sucks. If he's playing Gruul aggro, we could be fucked. Playing some sort of it. The good thing is we have the mana for Storm's Wrath, so if he gets a board presence that is unfavorable or undesirable, which he is. Alright, so we have the Stomping Ground. Well, what we'll do is play the Forest. Storm's Wrath is a sorcery, so maybe we shock in the Stomping Ground and then just Storm's Wrath. Clear up the board right away. I have a feeling with mana open, he's holding things back, which would be a smart move. I would say that's something he should do. So we can play the Forest and Storm's Wrath. I think that's our best move. Okay, so he's just going face. So I think he's going to have to commit some stuff to the board. What does he commit? Bone Crusher Giant. So we might have gotten rid of a lot of his options there. Moss Viper. Okay. Frilled Mystic can act as a counter spell and as a way to get rid of Bone Crusher Giant. So from here, I think, whatever he tries to play here, we can Frilled Mystic. If not, he's not playing into counter spells. So do I play the Nightpack Ambusher and let it die? I feel like Nightpack Ambusher is too valuable of a card to let die. But we also need counter spells. We have 2 in hand, so we might as well let one go. That's fine. And just get rid of his big body. And that's it. He had nothing else, so picking up an early game 1 with not a lot of effort we had to put in. Alright, our next opponent is Resurr. I don't know. Okay, so we don't have green mana for Uro or for Nightpack Ambusher, but we have 2 reds for Storm's Wrath. I think we're going to keep it. No Wilderness Reclamation, so this could get ugly. But I've won games without it before. The no green is kind of a problem, but hopefully we draw into it. I mean, we have plenty of green representation in our mana base, so hopefully we draw into it. We'll see. Hey, buddy. Come here. Okay, so he's playing mono white. Okay, so he's playing Boros. More aggro for us to contend with. Green mana. No green mana. Okay, well, this'll have to do. We have the Sinister Sabotage open, if he has some big play here. Okay, he's committing mana to his Goblin Banneret. So we'll just send that back. We'll just say no. Make him commit more mana to it later. And hopefully we draw into green mana, I guess. We don't. Boy, oh boy. That sucks. We've got a handful of goodies and just no way to play them. So he's got to recommit the Goblin Banneret, which I guess is a good thing. We'll put in the Brazen Borrower for now. If he has no other plays he wants to make. Untapped green. God damn it, untapped green. Mystical Dispute. We are going to need counter spells, but I think we need to do better. Put some pressure on their life total. They can swing in for a decent chunk here. I really want them to commit something else to the board. Doesn't look like they're going to. Maybe, probably should have held on to our Brazen Borrow so it didn't die. But whatever. Outlaw's Merriment. So are they going for... Okay, so what we might want to do... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How much is Divine Visitation? Let's take a look here. Divine Visitation. Divine Visitation is... How much mana? 3, 4, it's 5 mana. 1, 2, he has 5 mana. So I think he's looking for a Divine Visitation. He made the 2-1 with haste. He's playing a Legion War Boss. Don't want to play the Ambusher. Not yet. Especially if we're going to Wrath. Would love to see a Wilderness Wreck off the top. We don't. Clear the board. We don't really have much of a choice. If he plays Divine Visitation, we don't have a counterspell. What are the odds it's in the 3 cards he has in hand? Deals 3 damage, he gains 2 life. Okay. So he's just going for all-in aggro. We'll pay 2 life. So we can play out an Ambusher. Trample and haste. Okay. So he commits both. We'll play out the Night Pack Ambusher. We'll block here. We'll take the 1. We're down to 4. No real life gain here, so... Winota. That's an interesting play. So we'll get Storm's Wrath back. And then we'll draw it with Krasis. 3/3 Krasis. See if he wants to tango with Winota. He doesn't. Which means that he's going to be able to get what he needs from Winota to steal something of ours. What does he steal, though? So I think we just Storm's Wrath the board. Play Uro, get that life gain back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know what his last card is, but hopefully it's not something that just does damage to me. We're going to need Uro to attack. I think I need to do this not at instant speed. And we can do the other wolf at instant speed. We get the 3 life from Uro. And he scoops. Whew, so we outlasted him. And that was a pretty... That got close. Alright. Our next opponent is Revenger Watermelon, I think. But without the vowels. Really hoping he doesn't play aggro so I can kind of show what this deck can do against not aggro decks. But so we have a pretty decent hand here. We have 3 lands, we have Uro to play at 3, and then we have Wilderness Reclamation, which hopefully we can draw the 4th land for. And we have Storm's Wrath, and we just need to draw 1 red, and that is playable, and we have a counter spell. I think this is a very strong hand. We don't have, you know, a Nightpack Ambusher might be something we hope to draw into, so we'll stay true to our name and keep 7. But yeah, what are we hoping to draw into? Frilled Mystic, Nightpack Ambusher, things like that. But this is a pretty strong hand. We have some ramp, we have counter spells, we have board wipe, Wilderness Reclamation, which what the whole thing is built around. So these are interesting sleeves. What the hell are these? Extra Life. Oh, that's cool. Wish I had done Extra Life. Looks like 2019 and gotten these. That's dope. Is that supposed to be a Johnny? Like a cute Johnny? Looks like Revenger Watermelon isn't around. Either that or they are roping for a concession. Nope. There they are. Temple of Malady to start. We'll play our own tapped land. I want that red mana down there. And then I think we'll scry to see what's on top. Okay, so they're ramping, so that's good for us. Nightpack Ambusher, that's fantastic. Scry, let's see what's on top. A Steam Vents, we'll take a Steam Vents. We want the red source. We might even shock that in and play Uro next turn. If he has any balls, he will swing in with the Leafkin Druid and assert his dominance. Or she. He or she. So maybe we don't... why shock it in? Why shock unless you absolutely have to? So we'll play Uro, get that sweet life gain. Oh, right, and then Uro, we can just put it on the field anyway. So we will put the Stomping Grounds on the field, tapped. So our next turn we get Wilderness we can Storm's Wrath if he puts something on the board that is damning. This might be a Storm's Wrathable board. I might actually do a slower play and wait for him to play something else out. I might wait. Or pay 2 life. Yeah, let's just get Wilderness Reclamation out there now. We untap. Okay. So he's going to get rid of our Wilderness Reclamation. That's fine. We have the Storm's Wrath ready. Let's see what he commits to the board. Another Healer's Hawk. So he's played out his hand. Which means that... Let's see what's on the top of our deck. Another Uro couldn't hurt. He's not going to have a lot of options. We have a lot of card advantage here. We have a lot of options. You know, if he plays something I don't like, I'll just unsummon it, and then I'll hold up the Sinister Sabotage. And if he plays something... Alright, let's see here. So we have 6 mana on the board. If we play 7, we have enough for Nightpack Ambusher and for Sinister Sabotage. Or we have enough for Uro and Nightpack Ambusher. So I'm going to pay the 2 life. I'm not going to play the Uro. I'm going to hold on to the Sinister Sabotage because, you know, if he top decks some glorious card, I can just sabotage the shit out of it. And if he doesn't, we Nightpack Ambusher at his end step. He probably has like another Mortify or something, so he can kill our Nightpack Ambusher, but we're just going to say no to that. Battery can go away. Mystical Dispute is a fine pick. The reason I like Sinister Sabotage, it gives us the Surveil. I knew that Mystical Dispute was on the top of my deck. That's exactly what I want on the top of my deck. So, with that being said, we will play Uro now. Get that sweet 3 life. Maybe I should have held on to Uro, but... so that this wolf could have created a token. But I think, considering he's in top deck mode, I don't think we're going to have too much of a problem. He's playing Chittering Harvester. We're just going to say no to that. We have the Sinister Sabotage ready. Swinging with the wolf. Wolf creates wolf. Wolf begets wolf. And we'll see what they want to try to play next turn. So that Mystical Sanctuary actually kind of came in clutch. You always want to have counter spells in hand. I don't care about that. That's fine. Nope. See what's on the top of our deck. Another Sinister Sabotage, but they don't want any of it. That's game. Alright, our next opponent for the day is Faustindeel. Alright, so we have a Fabled Passage, which would probably fetch a red to make Storm's Wrath even viable. We have Negate, Sinister Sabotage, and Nightpack Ambusher. We're going to stay true to our name and keep 7 here. I don't know if it's going to work out for us, though. Let's see what's on top of our deck. Another Temple of Mystery. We do need mana, but we need red mana. That would let us see more of our deck. We are running 28 lands, so I don't know if more tapped land is what we need. I feel like if I put that away, I'll regret it, but we're going to do it. Oh, these are more interesting card sleeves. Playing a lot of people with cool card sleeves lately. Okay, so we draw into a Mystical Dispute. Here's where I think we fetch our red. And then Mystical Sanctuary comes in tapped, which sucks. But we don't really have many plays here anyway. They shock in a Blood Crypt. Red and black is not a color combo I want to be seeing. Okay, so they're discarding cards. What is this? There's our other red, which we'll shock in. So that we have the Sinister Sabotage ready. If there's an early play we might want to counter, and there is not, which is interesting. Okay. Let it go to their turn. Fires of Invention. No. Next, we'll end the turn there. We'll see what they produce. So they scry to the top. We'll get our Wolfie out there. Wolfie Wolf. We have an unsummon. Okay. So Wolfie Wolf didn't last long. Let it go to their turn. So he tries to play Fires of Invention again. We will Sinister Sabotage that. Forest, we need to do better. Another Mystical Dispute. Well, this is just going to be a battle of attrition. Yeah, we'll play Wilderness Wreck. Scrying one to the top. We just have all the Mystical Disputes. Should not have played the Ambusher. It's probably too soon for the Ambusher. Whenever an opponent draws a card, deal 1 damage to that player. That could be a problem for us. And he has 3 mana open. And I don't want to spend 2 disputes on that. He gives us the Your Go. I'm going for the Thinking. Sinister Sabotage would have been a great... Yeah, we gotta go for it. If he pays 3 mana, we go for the second Mystical Dispute. We gotta pray to God that he doesn't have multiple plays here. Just a battle of attrition. Oh my goodness. A Castle Vantress would be nice so I could see the top of my deck. Play the Uro. Get the card draw. A Negate is nice. That'll be good for. And then I think we slow play this. Negate would be good for Fires of Invention if he has it again. He plays nothing and discards that old guy. If we get rid of this, we have mana open for the Mystical Dispute. I think we're going to need the card draw. So we're going to get rid of... And I guess we get rid of Nightpack Ambusher. We have no way to get him back. We'll get Uro out there. We'll negate that. Another Wilderness Wreck. And they've had enough. Get rid of their Fires of Invention. They couldn't get rid of our Wilderness Reclamations, and we got rid of their Fires of Invention. So that's that. All right. And our final opponent for the day is the Grand Merchant. It's a pretty cool avatar. 2 Wilderness Reclamations, Storm's Wrath, Sinister Sabotage. So if we draw into an untapped red, or if we draw into red at all, I think we're pretty good. 2 Wilderness Reclamations might be overkill. And we saw what having only 1 wolf did to us. And we drew into that wolf in that last game too. And then we had nothing for a long time. So this could be difficult, but we'll give it a shot. I think this could work. So we'll stay true to our name and keep 7 here. So that's an untapped source, but it is not an untapped red. Or a red source of any kind, for that matter. Potentially in a counter matchup here, which could be interesting. Wonder if they're playing Quench. Okay, so blue-white to Fairy. So I said we'd scoop right away, and I think we probably will. Non-land permanent and opponent controls to its hand. To their hand. So if we can get rid of that Teferi at the right time, if we can send that back to their hand at the right time, we could run away with it.
Let's try this.
When is the right time, though? We'll play Wilderness Wreck. We have nothing we can do on their turn as long as Teferi's on the board.
Don't worry, I got it.
I'm assuming they have counter spells open now. Nope. They tap out to draw 2. Okay, and we have 2 red sources, so we could Storm's Wrath, get rid of their Sphinx, hope they tap out again.
No, I am not making this up as I go.
Or if they play, alright. So we can Storm's Wrath and get rid of Teferi here. That gets rid of 2. We'll see if he has another Teferi. We can Sinister Sabotage. A goodbye Teferi. I would love a Mystical Dispute, please. Wilderness Wreck. So yeah. I mean, yeah, let's see what happens. Is it worth Mystical Disputing that? A 4-mana 3/2 when it enters Scry. I don't think so. We know he has Teferi, and he's our real target. If he tries to counter this, we have Mystical Dispute up. Now we have Sinister Sabotage. Swing in with our 4/4, assuming he can't block. We get some damage. We get a 3/3. So do I return that to his hand and make him replay it? I think I do. This might be greedy and I might regret this. But if he has Teferi, we have a Sinister Sabotage. Deals 3 damage to target tapped creature. If it's done during a main phase, yeah, we'll just say no to that to keep our Night Pack Ambusher. And they're done. So that might be the first time Wilderness Reclamation has ever beaten Teferi. That worked out perfect. Unbelievable. I can't believe we got through that. I said we were going to scoop if we fought Teferi, and I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. All right. So, yeah. To sum up, the deck performs really well. Your problems are card draw. There is no card draw here, so finding a way to draw cards I think would be critical. You never really got to see Hydroid Krasis make a play. There's only 2 in the deck, but he's kind of the way I would refill my hand. And I've had success, with him and playing with him, by tapping out on your upkeep before Wilderness Reclamation is triggered. So you tap out with Hydroid Krasis, you make him like a 7/7 or something ungodly. You get like 3 cards, but even then 3 cards isn't that much. So, I'm just trying to think of a way to kind of get some card draw in here, but really this is just you just kind of try to use as much mana as you can on your upkeep, and then you let all your lands untap, and then you just keep that land open for counter spells. And we have so many here. I mean, 3 Sinister Sabotage, 4 Mystical Disputes, 4 Frilled Mystics, so it might be too much, but I mean, it works. I mean, the point of the deck is to choke out your opponent, prevent them from playing their game, and you play your game, and we were able to choke out Teferis, for God's sakes, and he is literally the bane of this deck's existence. So, Storm's Wrath came in key. I think that was actually a very good idea for me. Rather than playing just Simic, you throw in the red just for Storm's Wrath. I mean, there could be some better options. I mean, I know some people on the lower end had, like, instead of like negate and instead of like unsummon, people had like Fire Prophecy or Scorching Dragonfire. I played so many games where 3 damage wasn't enough to kill an early target that came in, especially when you're playing, with so much aggro out there right now. Gruul aggro as well. You have things that come down that are 4/4s with hexproof and stuff. I just found that, like, Scorching Dragonfire, although great for some early removal, just wasn't doing the job against some of the bigger creatures. Storm's Wrath was really a catch-all in a lot of our games. It got rid of a lot of stuff. Board clearance seems to be a huge thing. This deck really no plays until you get Wilderness Reclamation out there, and then you really got the engine to get your deck moving. So Storm's Wrath is really a great catch-all to get rid of whatever they've built up, and then your game from there is just control, choke, and swing away. Don't allow them to play their threats. You play your threats. You protect your threats, and then you just swing. Some good ideas. Negate, obviously a great card. It stops any removal from things like Nightpack Ambusher, but an idea I had that could potentially be good, but it just seems a little too situational is, what's the Keep Safe? It's a 2 mana counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. Draw a card. So there's a little bit of card draw in that, so that it gives you some value, and it could be for something that, to keep safe. It could be used to protect one of your targets, like a Nightpack Ambush or something like that. Be interested to see if there's a way that you could play Storm's Wrath with your Nightpack Ambusher out there. I mean, the only way I could think of is if you have 2 Nightpack Ambushers, they're both 5/5s and out of the way of a Storm's Wrath. But like a way that you could play something early. That's why I have the unsummons. You play at your Nightpack Ambusher, you have to play your Frilled Mystic, and then your next turn, you're going to be playing a Storm's Wrath. If you have an unsummon, you can bring them back to your hand, play your Storm's Wrath, replay them, or something like that. I have done that before, and it is kind of cool, especially with Frilled Mystic. If you play a Frilled Mystic to counter a spell that they have, and then they already have a board established that you need to get rid of. On my next turn, essentially what I did is I unsummoned Frilled Mystic, so I had a counter in hand that they knew about, which is even more tilting for them. I played a Storm's Wrath, cleared their board. I was tapped out. I might have had a Wilderness Reclamation on the board, so it might have untapped everything, but even if I was all tapped out, it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's a very fun deck for you and not for your opponent. Definitely could, Expansion Explosion is probably absolutely a card you should include. You can get rid of an unsummon and throw in an Expansion Explosion. I just wasn't finding that I was really getting it. If I get 4 of these, that's great and whatever, but I was finding that the more control and counter spells I had, the more I could just choke out my opponent. Like, essentially this is just Simic Flash with all the counter spells and all the flash creatures, with Temur Reclamation built in. So it's kind of a mix of both, and it kind of does the work of both, where Simic Flash is very much just to choke out your opponent, don't let them play stuff, you play your own threats and kill. But this is Simic Flash without its earlier threats, like Brineborn Cutthroat and what is his name? Spectral Sailor. So, you know, you have the lower end there in Simic Flash that I cut to make room for, you know, Wilderness Reclamation, which that deck doesn't really run. So yeah, obviously Hydroid Krasis is actually one of your later plays. Can I not get in between these two? Whatever. So yeah, you got your lower end spells here to prevent stuff from happening, to your creatures. Uro, great ramp. Performed pretty well. I think we were 4-0. So, and that was in casual. I think you could probably take this to ranked. Maybe like in gold and silver, you could probably get away with some wins. Maybe even higher. I might play this in ranked today and see what happens. But yeah, performs pretty well. It's a pretty fun deck for you, not for your opponent. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.